Hello. Is it on me? I can't see it.
It is
on me.
now.
Like
It is
I'm,
now.
I'm looking at you, and I can't. The camera hasn't actually left you. Anyway,
I think we're live.
I think we are. Yes. Wait. That's what the live thing in the corner says. So hey, welcome to Australian Transformers Weekly. Do you come here often? You should sit down and talk about some Transformers with us. This is the Australian podcast. We're bringing you Transformers news from around the world because not that much Transformers news breaks in Australia. This is episode 169. We are recording live on October the 12th, 2018, late Friday night. This episode, we're going to be talking about another Japanese rarity hitting the mainstream. We have a wave of third-party prototypes to look at, just a small one, so it's sort of it's more just sort of like a swell, not a wave. There's a little bit of other news and some new Transformers clothing that's been announced that I've put in the show simply because I want it. All that and more is coming up after this.
Okay. I don't have the soundboard.
Good. That's probably a good thing because you do all right with just the bell.
Okay. It's not here. It is not present.
Good. It's fine. It's fine. There's not going to be any Bumblebee bet discussion this week. Welcome to the show. This is episode 169. We are recording live on October 12th, 2018. I'm Jason. Joining me this week, we have Max coming to us live from Adelaide. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Good.
Yourself?
I'm doing okay. It's been a busy week. It's been a really busy week for me. I've seen a ton of upcoming phones, which is not even my real job, but it's been fun. And coming to us from an undisclosed location in country Victoria, Brad. How are you doing, Brad?
Howdy doody. I'm evolving slightly into a bit of a new studio setup. Hopefully by next week I can organise something a little bit better, but the hardware's working, so we're doing it right.
Brad is his own studio series.
Studio series me.
Yeah.
It's the price tag.
So yeah, look, I've had a busy week. How have you been this week, Brad?
Oh, it's been a massive week. I've just come hot off the heels of Border Dimensions here, which is our local convention, third year running.
Do you want to turn on the screen share because I do have a photo that you sent earlier?
Yep. We one of the issues we have with some of these smaller conventions is just only having a day to exhibit and sort of just working out what we're going to do to you've got an hour and a half, 2 hours max to set up before the event, so you can't really go big. Most of the figures were still packed away from Nerdmania in Shepparton in July, but all the Fans Toys Dinobots are out on display. Masterpiece Megatron, KO, MP10, the custom MP10 we had painted up, and a few other MP bots as well. So we displayed for Border Dimensions here locally, and it was a fantastic day. No cosplay this time. With the job change, I had no time to get any cosplay organised.
You say no cosplay, but I'm fairly sure I see a Thor costume hanging on the set there.
I've been trying to flog that off for 2 years.
But it suits you so well.
I know, but the biggest thing is I purchased that about 4 years ago, right around the time I started the club. And yep, zoom in, enhance.
Yeah,
zoom and enhance. Oh,
there we go. There we go. We have to. Yeah, look. Why didn't you sell it to that guy?
And it was one of those things like, we're going to start doing these convention tours, but then I started doing the convention tours as a club and going, well, I can't really be dressed as Thor and hosting a TCCA table at the same time. It's sort of cross-contamination or whatever else.
If only someone had made a Transformers crossover figure that had the Norse god of thunder.
Now, I raised this question. Would it be acceptable if I had the Thor outfit on and also my Prime helmet?
Can I just say that the Thor outfit looks like it's rather form-fitting, so no.
It's absolutely yes.
It is form-fitting. That's the main reason I haven't been able to wear it in the last couple of years. Uh,
So how many people do you think you saw at Border Dimensions?
oh, I haven't got an idea of the ticket or how many people come in, but there was a few there. One interesting thing was people that have grown up with Good Game on ABC or SBS. I think it's ABC. Baja, one of the hosts from that, the founding hosts
I
of
think you mean Barjo.
Bajo. I didn't even know who he was when we were sitting there talking for about half an hour before the doors even opened, and he was going through all those figures and seeing the Masterpiece Soundwave there, and I was sort of just chatting to him about the whole KO, the difference between Hasbro, Dakar, and he was on Amazon, I'm guessing Amazon US, looking at these figures, and I was pointing out, yep, that one's fine, that's $160, that one should be fine, and he really wanted to get himself a Masterpiece Soundwave, and I said to him, be very careful because it won't stop at that. But
yeah, no, it is kind of a gateway drug, right?
yeah. So
Speaking of Soundwave, like slightly off topic, when you do these shows, do you get this thing of every second person asks about Soundwave?
there's a lot of Soundwave love out there, but whether it's G1, even Transformers Prime Soundwave, I've had 12-year-old girls digging through tubs of junker parts trying to put Prime Soundwave back together again that I've had in there in bits. It's weird.
I find because Masterpiece figures echo their cartoon designs a lot, that Prime and Soundwave are the ones where people will come up to your table and they'll say a couple of things, right? One, they'll point out a Masterpiece figure and go, I had that when I was a kid, because people misremember the size of things. Like a Masterpiece figure to an adult is about the same size as like Soundwave is to a younger kid. Mm-hmm. And because they conflate the look of the figure in its Masterpiece toy form with the look of the character in the cartoon. So usually people will come up and they'll point at often Optimus, and increasingly these days as we've been taking Soundwave, Soundwave is on. They're like, oh, I had that as a kid. It's like, actually you didn't, but sure.
Yeah. Fans Toys Dinobots have definitely come under that category where people see even the MP8 Grimlock. Just, there's Grimlock. I had that as a kid, and it's like, no.
The one that almost gets me is the Combiner Wars Devastator, because it's this giant Hulk figure, and the G1 one is like the size, like smaller than a liter, and they go like, oh yeah, I had that thing as a kid.
Yeah.
You know,
it's entirely possible that we're doing a disservice to all the people who come and talk to us about this. They're quite compass mentis and do realize that they're not talking about the same toy, but we feel like they don't.
And that was one funny thing that came out of it. Like, I had Devastator, I had Metroplex and Trypticon there on display, and when people were looking and going, oh wow, that's fantastic, I said, these figures, Trypticon was only just out of release, Metroplex Fort Max not seen here. You can still get over at Myer for, I think it's down to $300 now on clearance, which is still not worth it. But all these figures have been at retail release over the last 5 years, and you could have easily gotten. People just haven't seen it, where they probably haven't even ventured into the toy aisle at all. But
no, of course not.
No.
And look, if it's getting them not just coming out of the table, but getting them interested in the hobby as a whole, good on them.
Mm.
Well, look, I think it's fairly safe to say you had another way of like enticing the kids over to the table too, right? Like, here's the lolly jar.
It's always popular.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, parents say don't touch, and we say, hey, have a lollipop.
All right. Okay. I think we might move on from Border Dimensions. Any closing thoughts?
It's just fantastic having a convention here close. I don't have to go to Melbourne for or any further abroad, but that's it pretty much for the conventions for 2018 now. So I think the next one's going to be either Comic Expo in February in Melbourne, or Supernova Melbourne and Gold Coast next year. So we'll see what happens. We're currently, some TCCA news, we're currently organising the Christmas donation drive, so we'll see how that goes, and next year's convention tour will spring from that.
Sounds good. All right, it's time to talk about some bot shots. Botshots is the TCCA weekly Facebook photography competition. We encourage you to take your bots out of their cabinets and take them out into the great big wide world outside and take some photos. Weekly winners go into the monthly draw for a prize. Monthly winners go into the hat for a yearly prize. This week's winner is Ty. Wait, no, it's not.
Well, it was me, but I've ruled myself out.
This week's winner is Alan Chang. Now, someone's going to have to explain what is going on in this shop.
I think it's oh no, because Trailbreakers. That's not funny. He's an alcoholic. You can't make fun of that.
It seems a few comic lovers realise what the quotation was and like the post, like the photo.
What is the quote? I know, like seriously, I don't get it.
Oh.
So was there a caption to go with this?
There was.
It's Trailbreaker, damn it.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Well, I guess Trailbreaker, rest or rust in peace, has had a bit of a night on the booze. So yeah. Cool. And which Prowl is that?
I think it's Universe Classics, whatever.
It does look like you don't see this guy come up very often, actually.
Yeah, no, that's the Thrilling 30 / Generations that come out.
Yeah,
with him and Hoist, the other deluxe ones.
Nice.
It's a pair of kind of underrated figures there. Like
I didn't mind them. I thought they were good figures.
Look, a lot of the chug line around the Thrilling 30, like we have the ones that we like from that line, and like they'll come up a lot. But if you head a little bit off the beaten track, there's quite some reward for you.
Mm. He's also displaying one of his TCA stubby holes he purchased from Board Inventions. One of 3 he purchased. Cleaned us out.
Cool. I think that must also be the Generations Trailbreaker as well. Or what is he in Generations? He's Trail Cutter.
Lame. Autobot Trailbreaker.
Yes. All right. Congratulations, Alan. Well done. Sorry I didn't get the reference, but that's fine. I'm sure there's no harm, no foul. I think this is going to be a theme for tonight, though, is that me not getting references, because we're going to move on to the news. And so Takara has released pictures of LGEX Big Powered. Now, these guys are repaints. They're heavy remolds of Titan's Return, Misfire, Twin Twist, and Overlord. Now they've done some pretty serious work to all of these guys, and especially to sort of Overlord's twin jet tank alt mode. So it appears they've completely remolded some of that, and there's another one. Sorry, we're just looking at some of the character designs up here put together. So yeah, someone's going to have to explain to me Big Powered.
Go Power Rangers.
I'm fairly certain that is not it.
Okay, so it's all right. What do I know about Big Powered? It's space. So Transformers Zone.
Yep.
Like basically the very end of Japanese G1. This is from that. So it's these 3. Diatlas is basically Optimus Prime in Zone, and these are his bros, and they combine. There we go. That's big.
Very, very well explained. Optimus Prime and his bros.
Yeah.
And they've added the Titans Return head gimmick.
They have the head sculpts are quite. The head sculpts. I don't think they're the same head sculpts that we had on the original figures here. I think they have actually bothered to redo them. This one's quite detailed.
They all seem to be a little more detailed than what we're used to.
They do.
Yeah,
they all seem to have a base mode as well.
Yeah, which is really interesting because the 2 smaller figures are both deluxes, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They've really heavily retooled them to allow for that, which is kind of a pretty cool touch. It brings back that
they have
Titans Return era gimmick.
Correct.
Now, there's always been rumor of a possible new Star Saber. Can this come from that Voyager leader, whatever the middle figure is? Is there going to be a repaint or anything of that?
Being
the big jet.
So given that I had to have Max explain this character to me, I don't know.
So, yeah, I guess he's a retool of the Overlord / Sky Shadow mold.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I don't think they'd go that the third time.
What they can do him up as.
So look, these guys are not going to be out until either March or May next year. So like, if they were to go back for a third run and change it again, like it's not going to be until like end of 2019 or 2020 for it to be released. So I kind of don't see them going for a third one. But so look, there's been a few sort of the official sort of. They're not press renders because they're actually photographs of the toys, or at least of prototypes. But there you go. There's their combined mode. Now we saw the combined mode. Oh, whoops. We saw the combined mode in prototype form at a trade show a couple of weeks ago. So it is good to see what they actually are meant to look like in colored form. And like it is. I have seen pictures of this from the cartoon, so like there is at least some. I at least have some passing familiarity with it.
Yeah, it's strange, but as messy as this looks, this is completely accurate.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you the evolution of man.
That kind of, there is a couple, nice touches with the combined mode. Like it's not just big guy, little guy, little guy. Like they're two smaller figures. They separate out and form onto different parts of Diatlas. So. It's not just one uniform shape. It's still got a bit of streamlining to it.
We talked last week too about some of the hollowness in legs and thighs and that sort of thing, but they seem to sort of going back to that, like flywheels and that, having a bit more enclosed limbs.
These are the same molds that we saw for Titan's Return.
Yes,
they've been heavily retooled, but that they shouldn't be heavily retooled to that point.
Yeah,
they're definitely, you can see. Where these figures are coming from, but they are probably more extensively retooled than you see Takara do in a very long time.
The base mode thing reminds me a lot of Revenge of the Fallen. That just triangular.
Why did the Fallen need a base mode?
Because it's a triple changer or something. It didn't even need an alt mode, but that's just.
It didn't need to exist in the first place.
Very good point.
Thanks. So yeah, robot modes for these guys. Look, the paint applications on these look pretty damn good.
Look at that jet, the little kibble under that jet.
That is not jet kibble. That is a tank with a jet on it.
Yeah, that is the worst Blitzwing I've ever seen.
Well,
just wait till you see Starscream.
Yes, it'll have some red on it.
You got red on you.
Because you're
okay. Now, just a reminder, and there's the Titan Masters. Just a reminder, being an LGEX figure, if you want it, you're going to have to buy it from Takara Tomy Mall, but it might also end up on on release around Hasbro Asia, but they usually don't end up doing the LGEX EX ones. So find someone in Japan. I like to use Treasure Japan for purchases within Japan of this kind of thing, but they will not be on sites like Amazon Japan or on HobbyLink Japan or anything like that. If you're in Japan, the only place to get it will be Takara Tomy Mall. If you're not in Japan, there is a chance that it'll get offered by Hasbro Asia.
Yeah, you can go through like the specialist places as well, like your smaller Aussie guys like Robo Toys and Toybot Imports.
Yeah. So they may import some stock.
My question was going to be if pre-orders actually go up on Amazon Japan, or is it just once the figure's released, it's there?
Well, it will not be on Amazon Japan, so no, there won't be any pre-orders on Amazon Japan.
No.
If you're in Japan, you have to get it from Takara Tomy Mall. I feel like they may have just opened up pre-orders as well. I can't quite recall.
Yeah, they're up around the place now.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's move on. So the next thing in the news round this week, it was a bit of a quiet week. So you will have to bear with us. Flame toys. Flame Toys have done well for themselves.
And they're cranking stuff right now. Like, they're actually just pumping out a stupid amount of product right now.
Flame Toys appears to have been in development with several figures for quite some time, and they seem to have finally unleashed them on the world. So their Optimus Prime and Nemesis Prime came out at New York Comic Con. If not before, but I think the Optimus may have come out before that. But the Nemesis repaint of Optimus was apparently a convention exclusive for New York Comic Con last week, and now we have seen a few other figures of theirs come up over the past few months. They've got a ton, and they have a drift. And like any good third-party company, they are now repainting their figures. So we are looking at a shattered glass version of Drift. Now, I wonder if I can get to my shelf to get him. I don't think my headphones cable will stretch quite so far, but so in Generations, the Shattered Glass Drift was a repaint of Drift, who was himself a repaint of Blur, and there was also an eHobby release of Deadlock, which was the black version, because Drift is of course a reformed Decepticon who saw the error of his ways and switched allegiances to an Autobot. So Deadlock is his Decepticon form, Drift is his Autobot form, Shattered Glass is the universe where up is down, left is right, and everyone needs to adjust their vertical hold. So the Autobots are the bad guys in Shattered Glass, and so Shattered Glass Drift, look, he's a monster. He's a monster, but also the Flame Toys version of Drift looks pretty damn cool, and so a flaming hot red repaint of him looks great as well.
Yeah, it's just, with this one you get a couple more accessories, like he's got the rifles and what have you. I mean, granted, it's like $400 or $500 for a very niche item. Like Shattered Glass Drift is not a well-known or very iconic thing that you necessarily want to drop all that money on. But if you've got that money, my God,
there was someone else just done a drift, didn't they? Was it MMC or someone that done a real?
Yeah, so MMC did an IDW comic book inspired drift. As they now want to do.
Some of these angles aren't matching up. Is this going for the same sort of design, or is this something different?
Drift is a character that originated in the comics, so like you're always going to have some comic lines on him. So the Flame Toys version of Drift has some really large shoulder pads.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Drift does have I've got the original Drift sitting here within reach, right? So like Drift does have, if you turn the screen share, perhaps. Yeah.
Go.
So like Drift does have some fairly hefty shoulders here anyway. But
is that more because that transforms into a car where the other one might be some sort of Cybertronian mode? Or
no, I think it looks fairly much like it transforms into a car.
He generally has these stupid shoulder pads, like even on the MMC one here, they're still massive.
Yeah. So in Generations, Drift was a repaint of Blur. Quite a good repaint. Quite a good repaint of Blur. It worked out well for him. So I'm just trying to think if there's any other characters that were repaints of that of this mold, but no, I think they're all. I think it's only Blur and Drift.
Yeah, what did you say? Yeah, I think now I've got this in hand, I'm just remembering, before you rush to drop a few $100s on a Flame Toys figure, I would advise you that their Drift is the same size as this Drift. It is a Voyager scale figure.
He's very posable though. This Drift is actually you've got the MMC one.
So this is MMC Drift, and the Flame Toys one is definitely a better figure. But it's this size, like $400.
Wow, look at those shoulder pads. They're just not pointing up.
I mean, they're accurate, at least. So, I think the thing with Flame Toys is that the stuff that they are putting out and what they have on the horizon is maybe the very best action figures ever made, like Transformers or otherwise. But, they are... At the end of the day, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So they're better than anything else coming out. I don't think anyone's good. There's very little doubt in that regard amongst most people. But the issue is how expensive they are and how much it's going to sent you back to actually get a
at
hold
this
of
point,
it.
I'm just going to point out that a few months ago, and I've been saying this for a few months, right? I do feel like there is a place in the Transformers market for something that sits above Masterpiece.
Oh, yeah, certainly. And like, I'm not gonna.
Maybe
If
this is it.
people, yeah, and because it's also a really niche, like small production scale, and yeah, it's more of an like an art toy type thing. You know, like your free A's and what
Yeah.
have you, like a really fancy, unique thing. That's generally got a lot more love put into it than most other products.
And a lot less to run too. A lot less figures
very-
getting made.
It has to be, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it comes with a lot of accessories and a base plate, and there we go. It's sort of their ad for him.
Mega antenna.
I have no idea what's going on with that.
I think it's like an artistic licensing. It was like an exclusive accessory with the original one as well, just different colors this time. So that's I don't quite get it. It's just I suppose because Drift has always been sort of really inspired by like old-fashioned super robots like Gundam and what have you. So they figure, hey, Gundam's known for its ridiculous head crests. Let's throw one on Drift.
I think you're quite right. Yeah.
Well, analog's been turned off, so now we need to tune digital.
All right.
Good looking bot though.
Look, he does look good. Although I think I'd probably, if I was going to buy one, I would probably buy the original Drift instead of the Shattered Glass one.
Yeah, this is for completionists and people with a lot of money.
Yes.
I prefer the red on the bot though than the white. So
yeah,
if I was going for one, I'd go for this one. But
if you don't care about the character and you just want it for a really cool action figure, then I feel like this works better than the original. Also, you get more stuff with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. What's up next? X-Transbots. X-Transbots has been a bunch of busy little beavers over the last few months, and they've come up with this. So this is X-Transbots Autobot Spike, although they're calling it Autobot X. I'm not sure if they realize that Autobot is the trademarked term that they should be avoiding using. Probably not Spike, but hey, it is X-Transbots Autobot X. Now, continuing the theme of tonight's show, can someone explain this to me, please?
Season 2 of G1, Spike suffered an injury of some description and was in a coma. And Wheeljack, being the creator and the tinkerer he was, got all the Autobots on board to donate some of their spare parts, and they put together a robot for Spike's consciousness to be downloaded into.
I'd like to highlight the fact that spare parts includes literally just Prowl's head.
Yeah.
It's half Prowl's head and half Prime, though.
Yeah. I don't recall if it actually transformed in the episode. I don't think it did, which would make sense because I don't see how this could transform at all.
Transforms into a corpse.
Yeah.
Transforms into a hole in your wallet. So I recall seeing some photos of this last week, and I have a sneaking suspicion that it does actually transform into something, but I'm not quite sure.
It's got enough, little moving parts and stuff.
Yeah,
like that forearm, those forearms split open. Like there's something going on.
If this transforms into something coherent, I would be legitimately impressed.
I think it transforms into Homer Simpson's car.
Just with different colored panels.
Yeah. Yes. God, I don't know what this is. Someone help me.
This is season 2. Like when people talk about the iconic parts of G1, they talk about season 1, they talk about season 3. No one mentions season 2.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, like I don't know whether a given episode is actually from season 1 or season 2. It's pretty obvious when it's from season 3, but like I can't tell. I don't know. Anyway, so Autobot Spike is coming from X-Transbots.
Great.
Thanks, guys. So glad.
Sure. Maybe they can give us that crappy little bot thing from a Combaticon episode that was like the last episode before the movie.
You mean like the season finale for season 2?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The famously worst episode ever made.
Why? Wait, what was it?
I don't know. It just has a reputation for being incredibly bad.
Brad, what was the last episode of season 2? You famously disavowed season 3, so you have to know.
Was that Bot?
Yeah, it was Bot.
Oh, Bot. From putting me on the spot, memory serves. There's a human facility where they've created their own artificial intelligence. Optimus Prime decides that humans shouldn't have that power and goes and invades, kills a bunch of humans, and Bot sort of sends his...
Sure that's not Age of Extinction?
Oh, that's KSI. No, but they've made their own...
Why everyone hates Age of Extinction.
Yeah, they've made their own AI, and of course, being the 80s, there's a lot of tanked canine / Doctor Who robots with gangly arms with pincers, because that's bad. And hilarity ensues.
I have no idea what you've just explained to me.
It's not worth explaining. It's
fair enough.
I commonly laugh at the third season of G1 as G1.2 or G1.5, where season 2 is really G1.5 because there's a lot of junk in there.
But the thing with season 3 is that it narratively leads more into Headmasters than it does continue on from previous part of G1.
Well, it continues the movie on. That's the thing. It's that's the biggest disparity between G1, the movie, and then what comes afterwards. So
yeah, like season 3 is more closely linked to Japanese G1.
Yeah.
I think we're going to move on.
Let's.
X-Transbots has also been at it this week with an Elita 1 prototype based on Elita 1's appearance in the G1 cartoon. She was there for like 1 or 2 episodes, wasn't she?
I was going to say when the Superion aerial bots go back to Cybertron, time traveling. I think she's there with Alpha Trion.
I feel like there's two other. Well, this is after RC was introduced as well, but there were 2 others, and I feel like that's going to be X-Transbots repaints for this. Like they'll change the head sculpt, and they'll have an army of prehistoric G1 fembots.
Well, Chromia would have been introduced around that time as well. I seem to think there was pre-movie. There was a G1 episode with Prime.
I feel like you're right. Yes,
Prime trying to save her and either failing or whatever else. She was going to get dropped into a vat of boiling acid.
So, X-Transbots.
Have they on the money with this figure? Have they done RC yet?
I don't know.
They're doing this. They'll probably do it as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't be much of a change between molds. Really, a head and some shoulder.
It looks like it. Yeah, like it feels like all the sort of G1 style fembots all sort of have a fairly similar alt mode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. That's basically why whenever they've been redone as figures, they've all just been repaints of each other.
Yeah. I think there'll be a different head sculpt, but I think there'll be a repaint.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're done with X-Transbots now. This motley crew came out this week or last week. Final Victory is a fairly new name for masterpiece style figures, right? We haven't heard of them before, except in that when someone kills someone in Mortal Kombat. Like, that's Flawless Victory.
Flawless Victory.
So that would have been a better name for a Transformers third party company, right? Do you want to get that Flawless Victory Grimlock? Yeah, don't you?
Get over here.
So we are looking at Brawn, Warpath, and Huffer done sort of in masterpiece scale, masterpiece style by Final Victory, the new kids on the third party market. And they're looking pretty nice. Like I kind of get a bit of a Bad Cube vibe off their Huffer.
He does. He's a bit smoother. And, like he's got a bit more refined proportions than Bad Cube's one. Like
plus the set design as well. Like it's yes, we sort of link to Bad Cube because they're the ones that have mainly done the Huffer.
Done the Huffer makes it sound
done
like
the Huff. They've done the Huff.
Yeah.
But I just the size of these next to that MMC Skylinks, and from what I've heard, that's a big figure. These
he is a big boy. These guys are pretty damn big. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see these as being a Masterpiece Bumblebee size. They're more maybe the Datsuns or something.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like we say Masterpiece scale, but really Masterpiece scale doesn't really mean much other than sort of like a fairly large detailed bot.
Yeah, it's a very loose term.
Yeah, I mean, like if there was in fact a scale for these, then these guys being mini bots should be quite small, like you said about the size of Masterpiece Bumblebee. But really, like no one's going to make these characters at that size. So
well, fans toys are.
Well, if you guys are going to do a Masterpiece style mini bot, they're going to make it a larger figure so that they can charge more money for it, right? Now, looking at this, I just want to. So, like that brawn looks awesome.
It does. That looks fantastic. I don't
see how it transforms. That's incredibly well made. Like, is another way to put it.
Yeah. No, you're quite right.
I can't say negative things about
I think you might find he's got quite the backpack.
Is he?
Yeah.
It's there, but Braun's always had a backpack. So I can forgive that on this figure. It's like they're making use of something that's always been present.
It makes me wonder if he's going to have a bit of a G1 style transformation, like he folds his legs up over each other, because his feet are fairly fully formed.
They look like the fronts of the windows of the alt mode.
Yeah,
but then you've got wheels on either side of the calves as well, so that must open up to become the front and rear.
Yeah, and
of the vehicle mode.
Yeah, he's got window wheels on like the insides of his car.
And the outside of his left foot's the wheel as well.
I think we don't understand how this works.
So I guess it like flips around either side of the knee, and then because you can see there's a split in the thighs there, so that presumably moves out in some way to I don't know.
Sure, this is unique toys.
Really creative.
It's like the Unique Toys movie bots.
Maybe.
Unique Toys movie bots, at least the lockdown, are really, really simple.
Is anyone else getting an I'm going to buy these characters vibe from these guys now?
I wasn't going to because I was just like, oh, whatever, it's just more Masterpiece mini bots, but they look so well done.
They do look really well done.
I just waited to see some reviews to see what the quality's like. That's going to be the only hang-up. And paint. See what color they're actually going to paint them.
Yeah, Warpath has sort of like chunky legs and feet, but still, it's noticeably recognizably Warpath. He's got a bit of a droopy cannon on this one, but
yeah.
Look, if it works for Masterpiece Megatron, it works for Warpath. Yeah. Like he's getting a bit older. Yeah, it's quite all right.
This one doesn't look like quite as good. Like I feel like the torso is a bit too stretched out, whereas with Warpath, he's generally been really stocky, but. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling this one quite as much.
Maybe not. Maybe we just need to see a little bit more of it.
But we haven't really got, apart from War Dog, which is maybe to the wrong end of one scale. Fans Toys is the only other one doing a Warpath, and that's the Masterpiece Beast size. So,
no, you're quite right. Yeah, like Warpath is a character that not many third parties have actually gone near.
Yeah,
which is quite unusual, given that we have this thing in the third party industry where one character gets done and then everyone does the same character, right?
Well, I think
we're moving away from that nowadays. So people just want to do their own
I don't think we are.
Well, I think it's just that trying to figure out what scale to do him in. With a lot of these mini bots, like Fans Toys have done Beachcomber and Sea Spray and some of those other bots, but now they're sort of going on into Warpath in that same scale. But what do you do? He, like in some shots from the cartoon, is as big as Ratchet and Ironhide. So it's you're doomed if you do and doomed if you don't. It's
scale, not just in G1 but in Transformers in general, has always been very arbitrary. Like it is not consistent.
Yeah.
I got to ask something else is that I want to know here. What is this thing above it?
Looks like I think that's like a backdrop type thing, like for photos.
Yeah, look this one's got like a building on it, but you can sort of see some cars on the other side.
Yeah, this was it.
And then over here, it looks like it's the G2 Voyager Optimus Prime figure. Oh, maybe that might be
tanker.
That might be one of the third-party primes.
Yeah,
there's a Star Scream down there.
But the thing is, like, it's all pointing away from us, whereas that middle section is pointing towards us.
Yeah, it is because this is the shelf in the front of this cabinet, and on the other side there's a different display.
Yeah, but that 01 and grey mock-ups pointing towards us.
No, that's the back of something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, some curious. Yeah. All right, that is it for Final Victory. I'm going to call them penultimate victory because they haven't won yet, and we don't quite know when these figures are going to come out.
We'll revisit them when they get some colour.
We shall. Speaking of getting some colour, it did come out in the last couple of days that Hasbro and Puma are going to be collaborating on bringing back the Puma running system shoe, which was quite an iconic feature of the 80s, and it is coming back with a Transformers theme just in time for the Bumblebee movie later this year. Now, I desperately want this.
Are they going to come in a size above 6?
Oh God, I hope so. It does say that they'll be sold exclusively at Foot Locker stores. I assume that's in the USA, and it also has more details to be revealed.
Do we not have Foot Locker here?
We do have Foot Locker, but I assume it's going to be distributed at Foot Locker in the States. Who knows? Yeah. The press release is light on everything. It says the director for brand and marketing at Puma. That means he's always a good interview. Yeah. So we are excited to partner with Hasbro. Good.
Yep. They've made billions of dollars. We want to get in on that check.
Now, this does look like it's coming for Bumblebee, but that to me says Grimlock.
It says Grimlock, but it'll probably be Bumblebee because they're not creative with these sorts of things.
Look, the background of it looks like Bumblebee as well. It's like there's a bit of yellow and black and white going on, but like that with the red highlights and stuff, that says Grimlock. I want to see what the rest of it looks like.
Yeah, but red highlights and dominant grey, like it's a Grimlock.
But Bumblebee doesn't have that much grey either. Like red, grey, and yellow. That is Grimlock.
I'd say that as well. If it was just all yellow and black, maybe. But
look, I'm hoping we get shoes that evoke multiple characters.
Yeah, I'll continue on my thoughts on this when we get to the next article.
Fair enough. Also tonight filed under things that I would like to wear. There we
go.
So Alpha MA1, a company that makes bomber jackets. Alpha MA1 has come out with a reversible Bumblebee jacket. Now, I think we actually saw some sneak pics of this a few weeks ago. Now, it is reversible. So on one side, you've got sort of a fairly understated but yellow Bumblebee promo, and on the other side, you've got the G1 box artwork, which is amazing. And I would love to wear this jacket around with that artwork showing, but I kind of feel like I'd also be happy enough to wear the Bumblebee version.
It'll probably be on. There's a lot. It's a lot more held back. So it's not as in your face, but it's still very visibly Transformers.
Yeah, we got. It wasn't this. It was something earlier. It might have even been Toy Fair or around the early start of the year where we started to see those models wearing G1 box art prints.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out which company that was from. I know it's in one of the old run sheets, but I couldn't recall it. But
and it just seems that all of a sudden that fabric, someone's printed a shit ton of that fabric off, and now
do you feel like Hasbro has recovered the high res version of this artwork and they're now just like licensing it to everyone?
Oh no, but it looks fantastic. No, the Legacy book came out way before that, so yeah, I don't know, but. Yeah. So it's just. Where's the shorts? Where's the undies? Where's the hankies. Like it's got to be coming.
So here's the sort of center back design of the bomber jacket. Now, look, dude, I really like the jacket. Like I like the look of it. I like the logo, everything design. I like the fact that it's a bit of a dual promo for Bumblebee. Look, there's like Autobot logos stitched into
look at that. That's detail.
That's beautiful.
I'm glad the Bumblebee logo's there, not Sting like a bee or biatch under it. Like it's just it's subtle. It's not over the point, but considering this thing's completely reversible.
Now, some bad news. Also, we did mention earlier, B127 is actually how Bumblebee is referred to by Prime.
That's his designation, yeah.
Now, some bad news is that if I look at the TFW article behind this, so Alpha is actually Alpha Industries is a Korean company, and this jacket is up for pre-order. It is 369,000 Korean won, which is apparently $325 US.
$2.6 billion.
Yes, it is a nice jacket. It is not $500 nice.
And that brings me into my points from the previous story in this. It's just how often do you buy Transformers clothing and actually wear it? You're paying more for the license. I know whenever I buy an Optimus Prime t-shirt for my son or something, I buy it for him and normally goes straight in the cupboard and he doesn't wear it a lot just because it costs a lot and don't want it to wear out by repeated washes or
like that's kind of right. Like you if you buy something like like a Transformers t-shirt, you tend to only want to wear them to Transformers related things. Perhaps. So like I've got a few Transformers t-shirts and I generally don't wear them places. I save them up for TF Nation and stuff like that. But I still want this jacket.
I know this is taken to the extreme. Like you walk into a crowd with this on them, and Transformers collectors know what this is.
Of course.
Everyone's gonna know.
It's not about that. Like I like it because it's cool, and like I wear these kinds of jackets around anyway. Just not this overt with this artwork on it. Like usually the bomber jacket I usually wear is just blue.
This takes me back to Gold Coast Supernova 2016, where there's a guy that had been working for about months on a Affleck Batman cosplay of the armored Batman for BVS, and he'd put so much hard work into it.
Is BVS how we refer to it now?
Batman v Superman. He put so much work into it. Between him putting that work into it and that convention, the movie had come out, and all the hatred and whatever of it, and he himself was not a fan of the film, the final product, but because he put so much work into that cosplay, he still wore it proudly. That's kind of the thing too, right? Like it's a feat of the design of his cosplay costume. Yeah, but my point, I'm getting back around to it. You're paying $300 for this, and if the Bumblebee is a complete flop and is horrible, it's like, wow, what do I suppose at least you can turn it inside out.
You're right. I might order it in January.
At least you can turn it inside out, and just having that G1 box art print, I think, is still worth that amount. And just don't.
Do you reckon it's Alpha hedging their bets? Like if the movie is a flop, all the stores will just be ordered overnight to just flip the jacket inside out. Never to be seen again.
Yeah.
All right. Look, we have a few minutes to spare, so I think before we sort of like finish talking about stuff and go to new acquisitions, because Brad and I don't have any, and I know Max does. Let's turn our attention to Cyberverse, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So. Okay. I love how Max sounds surprised by this, like it wasn't discussed before the show. So Transformers Cyberverse. How many episodes do we have online now? I think I've watched 5, possibly 6. I can't quite remember.
They do run together a bit.
Yes,
I started watching 8 before.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're up to about 8. Yeah. Cool. So I'm a few episodes behind. So like, what do you guys think of it? I've got a few thoughts on a couple of things, but like I'd like to hear from you guys.
I think it's definitely good. Like I'm not going to say it's bad, and then there's a lot to love with it. You know,
I don't think being different needs to be a knock on it, because that's what every cartoon starts out as for the most part. They're rebooting.
Yeah, even if it is different, it's still very heavily rooted in other Transformers media. Yes, so it has a strong foundation there that they can just bounce off. They can sort of take that foundation and just bounce off of it, and go into different directions, which is what they're starting to get into that sort of territory now.
So Bumblebee is stranded on Earth. He can't speak again, which is annoying. Windblade has caught up with him and wants to know where the other Autobots are, and so do we, because like we're kind of sick of only seeing Bumblebee and Windblade. But the show. So in the show, the two of them have they've what's the word? They've lifted a Decepticon jet of some kind, some transport, and they're using the technology in there to delve into Bumblebee's memories, which have been fragmented and damaged during some trauma or of something of his arrival on Earth, and he's forgotten everything about what's going on. So once you get into Bumblebee's memories, you're having a much more sort of urgent conversation between Windblade and Bumblebee, who can now speak inside his mind, about where the Autobots are, how they got here, and you get a lot of flashbacks to things like parts of the war on Cybertron, and you get the sort of an emergency that happened on board the Autobot ship when they were running out of energy, and all these sorts of things that happened and have been sort of buried down in Bumblebee's memory banks, and they sort of form the adventure of the week for the crew. Now, how do you feel about the sort of 10-minute format for the episodes?
I think
it's easy to keep up with. Yeah,
I quite like it. There's not a massive time investment required for it, and I feel like these days a lot of like a lot of kids shows. A lot of kids shows tend to sort of have a bit of an ADD syndrome to them, and like there's lots of yelling and shouting and trying to get your attention on X, Y, Z. But I feel like being a 10-minute show, it means that kids can sit down and watch it and then just get up and do something else afterwards if they want to.
Well,
I find scheduling of it on broadcast, like the 10-minute runtime, is quite weird for that. But there's probably a few ads either side, and one ad in the middle sort of blows it out to about 15 minutes.
Yeah, like the pacing of it, I actually think is one of its greatest strengths, in that it's quite a short episode. There's not a lot going on, but we're able to cram in so much. Like the stories that they tell,
a lot happens in every episode.
The stories that they tell feel like they could easily fill out, a standard 20-minute episode of any given cartoon or TV show, right? But it's really well paced out, and they do run together a bit, but they are individual stories that feel like when you're watching them, irrespective of when you go back and think about them later, like when you're watching each episode, it's like, okay, this is a complete story beginning to end within each episode.
I gotta say, I don't really feel like they're very complete stories. Like I think the show's obviously heavily serialized, and they really expect you to watch it sort of beginning to end. I kind of feel like how long is the series going to be? It's like, is it like 12 or 13 episodes? Or something?
It's not that long. Yeah,
like I kind of feel like it's, in a way, it's like the Machinima shows where they've gone in and made like a feature length something or other, and then they've chopped it into different episodes for broadcast. It is a child of the binge generation, right? Like they want you to sit down and watch them all one after another.
It's 18 episodes long, so I don't think we do have a sort of issue where we're nearing the halfway mark and we haven't really gotten towards any sort of significant plot development. Because the central thing has been the Seekers chasing Bumblebee and Windblade as they look for the Autobots. But then they look in Bumblebee's mind for clues, but they haven't made any progress at all. Like nothing that they've gone back and looked at has actually had an impact on the modern setting. So
that's true. So, like they are sort of piecing together Bumblebee's memories, and they did find an Autobot transport pod or an evac pod. I think they went to, didn't they go to like Mount Everest for it or something?
Yeah. And then it was empty, I think.
Oh, that's episode 8. I just started watching it and didn't finish it.
So look, things are happening there. What about the art style?
Well, I think episode 2 or 3 that I'd seen, where all of a sudden we've got Soundwave, Seekers, Wheeljack, and just a whole shit ton of G1 cast members all of a sudden appearing. It is a different art style, but you know who the characters are. Like it's not so much of a radical change from Cybertron to Prime. It's just or Energon to Prime. It's just animated.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a minute. I feel like the screen share needs to be turned off.
Oh, okay.
We're staring at this jacket.
Yeah. We're staring at the jacket while we talk about Cyberverse. But I feel like there's a lot of animated DNA in the artwork and the art design, but also like it's in a way, like if you go from 2018 and you look back at animated's aesthetic, animated definitely had a style and it was off the beaten track for Transformers. I feel like this has animated's DNA, but it's gone even more off the beaten track. Like there's really interesting proportions and flowing lines and designs of where characters' arms sweep out and the way they move and like sort of like even just the way Prime's chest holds together. And I know, Brad, one of your pet peeves with like comic designs and animated was sort of like the super slender waist on the characters as well.
I haven't said that.
You have. You did say it in one of the earlier episodes of the podcast. But like, I feel like, so I see those designs on screen, and I'm sort of like, oh yeah, like someone's gone to town with the design of this guy. It's it sort of works, but. And I think I said this when we were looking at one of the early previews of the show. The thing that I really liked about it is that everything moves. Like these aren't characters this isn't a case of them like drawing a character with all these sweeping lines and stuff and having them sit there and move their head around while the rest of them doesn't move. It's like the characters as they're talking, they emote and their arms move and everything. It's like it's a form of CGI on these characters' designs that it's designed to look like it's almost flat shaded and drawn and sort of brushed artwork even. And there are parts of it that I think work and there are parts that I think don't. I don't particularly like Megatron. I think Optimus comes off well. Like in general, I find like Optimus or Megatron are the ones that win in a design battle in each generation. Like I found the Optimus won animated, Megatron won Prime. Maybe it's Optimus's turn to win again. But
I feel like the issue with Optimus and Megatron is that they often come across as looking kind of generic.
You mean sort of like based on their own designs of the past?
Yeah, like they really actually. I think it's a problem with a lot of this show is that in going for the sort of evergreen G1 aesthetic, it hasn't really made itself out to be anything particularly special, right? Because I feel like stuff like animated or Prime would not be quite as memorable if it had just lent hard into a G1 aesthetic, right? Like the art style.
It's really hard to say in retrospect, though.
Well, that's what I was talking about last week about sticking to G1 and doing something different, something new, and having those new designs, having the artistic flair, and even the characters. Sort of, yes, you got Cullen coming back and just doing his movie Prime, but Steve Bloom doing Starscream in Prime was just fantastic. But I'm going back to Cyberverse. My one single issue of Cyberverse is when B's in his mind and talking through his voice. It's great. When he's back on the real world and acting like a 2-year-old, it's just I don't like it.
There's quite a dichotomy with the character. Like it's like he's left his maturity in his mind, not just his memories.
Yeah, well, yeah. He wasn't just lost his memory. He's dumbed down as well in real life. It's just Let's
talk quickly about voice acting as well. So they've sort of very specifically not gone for the traditional voices for these characters. I love Grimlock. Like Grimlock is very, very talkative and sounds hyper intelligent. And that's completely not what I expect for Grimlock. I think it's great. I'm less taken. It's not Cullen doing Prime in here, is it?
No, it's a guy who they hired so he could sound like Cullen but be cheaper than Cullen.
Yeah. I feel like after 30 years of the franchise, I feel like the fact that they're trying to cheap out on hiring Cullen to do Prime, and they get someone who just sounds like him, like I don't like it.
Yeah,
there are also a couple
fine other Optimus Prime voices. Like he doesn't just have to be Peter Cullen. He can be, could be
David Kaye.
David Kaye, yep. Gary Chalk.
Gary Chalk. Forgot the voice actors' names, but you can be whoever the guy was in animated, and it can work. He can be something new, right? If that character is still there, I don't think there's going to be much complaint.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I think that's true. They want the character.
Yeah.
There are a couple of specific things that I need to talk about in terms of the voice acting. Right now, now that I'm going to say this out loud, I'm going to sound really pedantic, right? But so there's a couple of things. In one of the recent episodes, it was either 6 or 7 when they landed on the alien planet in the search for Energon. There were 2 different pronunciations of the name of the computer. In the one episode, it was Teletran 1 or Teletron 1, depending on which character was saying it. And that is lazy. Like that
feels like they literally phoned it in.
Yeah, no, it does. It feels like the actor phoned in the lines, and if they'd gone to correct them, it would have have them redo the line or something. It feels like they're saving money by not having them correct it. So Optimus Prime pronounces the computer's name on the Ark as Teletron 1.
Wow.
And Bumblebee pronounces it as Teletran 1. And like, well, might you say potato, let's call the whole thing off.
No.
But like, how confusing is that? And like, I did a double take. Like when Prime said Teletron 1, I was like, wait, they've actually changed the name of the computer. And then like 30 seconds later, Bumblebee's like Teletran 1. I'm like, oh.
No, they didn't lose the license for it.
Accents.
Well, so it is accents, and that brings me to the other thing, the other part of it. Now, and this surprised the shit out of me. The guy who's playing Megatron, like, someone needs to tell him that his troops are called Decepticons, not Decepticons.
He keeps on
he says it all the time.
Every 5th word or so, he falls into this really heavy British accent.
I know. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who's identified it as like a British accent or Irish or whatever, right? But look up the voice actor. He's American.
Wow.
I literally looked him up because I thought, they've brought in a Scottish guy to play Megatron. That works really well or something. But no, he's American. It's just a weird accent for Megatron.
Maybe he's trying to make it a British accent, but he's not very good at it.
You may take our freedom, but you'll never take. I don't know, whatever. Like, are the Decepticons going to have a Braveheart moment?
Unicorns assemble.
No.
Inspiration, then
unicorns.
That's what I said. Unicorns. Wow.
They're not taking IDW inspiration on this. Like, there's nothing IDW in this show.
There's a little bit with the Megatron and Prime origins.
No, there's not. Like,
yes, there is. Have you seen the
Megatron
episode?
And Prime stuff has been done over and over again.
It's like, no, only in IDW and a little bit in Prime. This specific style.
Ooh, sorry.
Like, have you seen? I forget which episode it was. It was called Megatron is my hero.
You can be my hero.
I have not watched that one yet.
It's it basically, I don't know. It feels like they're going.
Is that a personal diary from Starscream?
Yeah. It's like they sort of made it IDW, but missing all the details. If that makes any
So,
sense.
so it's not ADW at all.
No, it's there. All the plot beats are
It's
there.
a cover art.
I
They
feel
miss
like
out on the reasons why things
I feel,
happen.
I feel like the trope of like Optimus Prime and Megatron knowing each other before the war, or knowing each other in the early days of the war, and Megatron choosing a different path. Like that's a trope. Like that just because it hasn't been done before in Transformers before IDW did it doesn't mean it's any less of a trope.
Or in terms of just in media in general,
Yeah.
outside of Transformers.
Like there's always some kind of a personal connection between your good guy and your bad guy, right?
Yeah.
We used to be brothers, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I would be hesitant to put that at IDW's feet and say they're doing IDW. I think it's
I don't think they're doing that by any means. It's much more. I don't know, it's like an amalgam. It's a little bit of Cybertron. There's a little bit of movie. There's a little bit of everything.
Hot take for Bumblebee: Starscream and Blitzwings are brothers.
Blitzwing is the missing seeker.
Yep. Anyway.
All right. Look, does anyone else have any more thoughts on Cyberverse? We are like you said, we're not quite halfway through yet, so please God, let something happen soon.
Yeah. No, just getting some of the, or not getting some of the figures in hand, but just sort of having the figures in hand at retail. Some of them seem pretty good, so that Shockwave especially, I want to pick that up. Has he appeared yet in the cartoon?
Yeah, there's a scene in that Megatron is My Hero episode. Megatron's like fighting in a gladiator arena.
And of course, Shockwave's going to think Megatron's his hero.
No, it's Bumblebee who does because he's got amnesia.
Oh,
but
until he rips his throat
it's like they're in the gladiator arena, and then Megatron like beats up a Dinobot or something, and then like Shockwave and Bumblebee high five. It's glorious.
High five.
It makes no sense. Comes out
Megatron, my wife.
I think on that bombshell, it might be time to end the discussion on Cyberverse. Now that we've veered into Borat territory.
It's
Brad, you and I have no new acquisitions. Max has got a big one. What do you got, Max?
Right. So I'll try and make things quick because I'm the only one, but I've finally ended the weeks-long saga of slowly opening the Power Prime's Terracons. And now
that is a damn good looking combiner.
It's so good. This may be the best one. I don't know. Like it's a toss-up between him, Computron, and Devastator. It's Abominus, like to a T. I mean, especially without Hunger. Christ, mixing two words together. Hunger as the core.
Is he a Decepticon?
Like with him forming the center, it just comes across as like with the way he's sculpted and everything. It's like spot on to like how I remember him from the Headmasters comic, and
yeah,
like, he's got this incredibly G1 looking head sculpt there. The joints could be a little bit stronger in the hips.
I was going to say, when you were holding him up before, it looked like his legs were sort of like a little bit wobbly.
I mean, they are wobbly. Like they'll fall out of position if you knock him, but he'll hold a pose, which is more than I can say for some of the Combiner Wars figures.
Yeah, most of the Combiner Wars figures, like they were quite difficult to pose. I can't believe it when I see photos of like people with the combiners like pulling a pose and holding a gun. I'm like, how did you do that? How much blue tack did you use?
I can't believe my Menasau's actually posed up there. It's like,
it's the worst one. Yeah, that and Bruticus
falls apart.
That and Bruticus are the worst, but
yeah, but even they are really good looking once you do get them posed up.
To have Perfect Effect announced any sort of upgrade kit for this, or is it?
I think they have, but I didn't see the point because they added in the ankle rockers for this one.
Yeah, but they're 20 feet. They're little.
He does still have tiny foot syndrome.
Yeah. They do hold him up decently well. Like the only other real issue I could point out is he doesn't have any accessories to speak of, but a lot of the time in G1, Abominus was just him. Like there's no.
He's a combiner. He's well enough.
Yeah, he just walks around punching things.
Yeah. Yep.
He is
Yes,
he is the Decepticon version of Titan Maximum.
Did I see knuckle dusters on those arms, on those wrists?
He does have
Oh yeah,
spikes on him. Like,
wow. Yeah.
so he's pretty well equipped.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
The Prime
nothing much else
Busters.
to speak of. He's basically just your average Combiner Wars figure, but 2 years later and a little bit better.
So yeah, are these Australian release Terracons, or did you import them?
I got them from HLJ because it was like $5 cheaper than buying them at retail.
So I was gonna say you look so much more relaxed than everyone else who's
You're not trying
put
to
together
hunt.
an Abominus
Well,
locally.
yeah, I'm glad I imported them because I have never seen them. So,
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's why everyone who's trying to assemble an
I don't
Abominus
know.
looks upset.
I don't know if these exist in Australia. I'd advise just assuming that they don't and going through HLJ.
Yeah, you check 5 different stores and had 5 different zeros on sightings.
Yeah, it's not the greatest thing in the world for current distribution. It feels like Studio Series has cut into the Generations distribution a bit as well.
Technically, Studio Series is Generations, but yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like stores are going to look at the listing and go, "Oh, we could have this thing from 30 years ago, or we could have stuff from movies which have just recently come out. We'll order in this movie stuff."
Yeah,
Actually,
it's entirely possible.
Even though this usually sells better. Yeah, that's all
right.
from me.
Look, I feel like that's kind of it for us for the night, right? We covered a little bit of TCCA business earlier. We are coming into the end run for the year, which means that it is almost end of year donation drive season. When the end of year donation drive does come up, I encourage you to dig deep and purchase a few tickets, because whatever happens donation wise for the end of year donation drive does color the conventions that we can attend for the following year and which places we can put tables.
Yep, it starts in November, so we're very close to starting.
So that's it. That's it. So that's kind of it for club news as well. We are looking to do something that we get together in New South Wales soon. I need work to stop being really busy so that I can plan it.
I'm going to try and put together maybe a pub and Bumblebee movie meet up in the city for the guys.
Yeah, I think Bumblebee movie release is going to be the next thing we're going to try and organise. Maybe we can cross promote with a Christmas party as well. So just
maybe
B movie after B movie drinks or something.
It's not B movie. That's the Jerry Seinfeld one.
It's so bad.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you're watching the live record, thank you for checking us out. You can find all these stories and more in the show notes on transformersweekly.podbean.com, on the Australian Transformers Weekly Facebook page. Or if you fancy just coming along and telling us that we're wrong about things, you can hit each of us up individually in the Transformers Collectors Club Australia group on Facebook. You can find the feed for the podcast on iTunes, Pocket Casts, and the episodes do go up on YouTube. And of course, the RSS feed link, if you need it for another podcatcher, is on the website, which is once again transformersweekly.podbean.com. Now, Australian Transformers Weekly is a production of Transformers Collectors Club Australia, if you couldn't already tell. TCCA is a registered club in Victoria. We're run by volunteers who donate their time and money to make the club and life better for everyone. Our goal is to connect the Transformers fans around the country. We do it by engaging the collecting community and trying to get everyone onto one giant Facebook page. You can find more information, including affordable yearly membership options, and show your support at transformerscca.com. Membership starts at just $5 a year. Now that is it for us, and we'll be back with more Transformers news. Hopefully more Transformers news and less Transformers apparel next week. Goodbye.
See you guys.
Take it easy.
Didn't have the arrow over the stop button.